Happy Sunday to everybody. Hope everybody is having a great Sunday. And let me just say this, that this is Mornings with Michael for information and educational purposes only. It is your responsibility to do your own due diligence to find out if any of what we talk about is right for you and your family and portfolio. So we just share the screen, find out where we ended last week. This is a heat map. Apple was down 4.32% on the Department of Justice lawsuit, I believe. Kind of a mixed bag in healthcare. Most everything else was up. ACN was down, Accenture, and that's a story there. Share the screen. This is our annuity sample. You don't want to have risk in the market. You are a certain age and you don't want to risk losing 54% of your portfolio like you did in 2008. Many people think that is around the corner. You can still invest in the market without any risk of downturn. And some of these funds or accounts are offering 30 to 45% bonuses while they last. And that's probably how they beat index investing by about 5% per year. If you'd like to find out more information, as you can see, the index is bob and weave, and this is a big gap in the difference when you get ready to spend that money. So if you have a question about this, feel free to reach out to us in a comment on our page. So there we go. And let's go to our screens as we pull up the news that happened last week. Hopefully this will work with us. This is Belite Bio, big winner from last year, last August, I believe, right around this tight area that we were talking about. VCP, volatility contraction pattern, and boom, just takes off. But in the meantime, let's go to our news. First, let's take a look at Lulu. Lululemon, Q4 EPS $5.29 versus estimate of $5. And it is popping out of this nice little consolidation. It's above its 50-day moving average, and look at all that buying power there. So closed at the top of its range, up a little over 2%. Revenues rose 16% year over year, 3.21 billion versus estimate of 3.19 billion. Nike, just do it. It fell behind in the race. People are wondering with all these new shoe companies on out of Switzerland, Skechers, the list kind of goes on and on. Hoka with Deckers, but Q3 EPS 77 cents versus estimate 74 cents. Just not enough to excite investors. And we had a huge selling, even though the earnings were 24% up from previous quarter a year ago. Tesla said it has reduced its car production at its China plant, according to Bloomberg News reports. And it sold off and it came back, fought back towards the end, down 1.15%. Dutch Brothers, BM share spot, they had a spot secondary priced at $34. That's why the big sell-off. It had just broken out, and boom, that's when the news was reported. People don't like to be diluted. I'm not sure if this is a buying opportunity or not. That's what you'll have to figure out for yourselves. I do notice a long line. It looks like in and out with all the cars in line to get their drinks. Earnings are in 45 days as it sold off 5.76%. Refiners, PBF and Valero downgraded to neutral from buy at Mizuho on valuation. Little sell-off on PBF Energy and Valero. Of course, I touch one thing and the whole news goes away. So we skipped ahead, but this is Valero pulling back about 0.78%. We missed Scholastic Q4 EPS 91-cent loss versus 80-cent loss. Wow, you would think that would go down on that news, but it did not. It went up 1.69%. As we can see, the 91-cent loss. FedEx moved up, authorized new $55 billion buyback, Q3 adjusted EPS $3.86 versus estimate $3.45. And look at that baby fly. That's like takeoff with one of its newfangled jets. And wow, up 13%. And look at the volume those 2 days. Moving on to AAR. The symbol is a little bit different than the stock. Earnings are up 13%. EPS was 85 cents versus estimate of 84 cents. Just not a big enough beat to make everybody stay in the company. So earnings are only up 13%. United Airlines is allowing up to 5 Mileage Plus members to pool loyalty points that can be redeemed for flights and other products. And they're off 0.34%, and JetBlue and Frontier already allow customers to pool frequent flyer miles. JetBlue down 2.75%, and Frontier down 3.88%. On to financials. Charles Schwab, which we trade on one of their platforms, upgraded to outperform from market performance TD Cohen. Stock tried to move up higher and then sold off, down 0.35%. Global Payments is seeking a buyer for Advanced MD, according to banking and private equity sources. I typed in the wrong symbol there. Falls to its 50-day moving average onto healthcare era. Q4 revenue is 49.5 million versus estimate of 47.5, and their stock is off 30.43%. Management sees revenues 160 to 170 million versus estimate of 168.26 million. This is a penny stock, and it has really sold off quite often. 10x Genomics expands Xenium menu with multimodal cell segmentation kit. Stock is down 4.5%, so that news did not do much for it. And Stevonto Group, 12.7 million, spot secondary price at $26. And amazing, it surged on that news, up 9.54%. And look at the volume there. Very interesting. On to technology, media, and telecom. Temu. Temu and Shein have displaced Walmart and Target as focal points in internal Amazon meetings related to retail as Amazon explores new promotional campaigns. So what did Walmart do on that news? Pulls back to the 20-day moving average, down to 0.94%. Target pulls close to its 10-day moving average, down 0.9%. Amazon bouncing off the 10-day moving average, up 0.4%. Finally, MicroStrategy. Chairman Michael Saylor sells 1.6 million in company shares as disclosed by the sale of 1,012 shares of the company stock at $1,537.02 per share on March 20th for a total transaction amount of $1,555,466. It was a 10V5-1 plan. So that's it. We think with Bitcoin going up over the weekend, if it maintains on Monday's open, this should move up. We'll see. This definitely is like a high tide flag if you've ever seen one. This is much more than 100%, and this looks like the flag blowing in the wind here. You could draw the flagpole right here. Here is the flag portion. See that? That's our flag. Let's see if this works out. So that is the story. Let's go to our PowerPoint. So our word of the day is nascent. Nascent is an adjective coming into existence and beginning to display potential. Fourth grade teams' nascent passing skills have a lot of room for improvement. Try to put that in your vocabulary. And here we got the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We got a bearish engulfing. See how it just engulfs that move here. This was a doji, as it was unsure and needed another symbol. So we think this could potentially zigzag down. And it looks like 391.51 is the target. Potentially could eventually zigzag down to 384. On to IWM. Look at this big bullish engulfing. There's no tail. So potentially some of the sellers just ran out of time, couldn't sell. The positive, it came on lower volume than the previous two, but you see this volume here. The following day came on lower volume. And then we have a hook on the commodity channel index. We'll just see if this moves down, but we think that potentially pull back to 245. This is the NASDAQ, the QQQ. It's like a doji here, kind of unsure. But we had like, not really any, but we had a bearish signal right here. Slightly lower volume than the day before, but see, we couldn't really move up and the volume was lower. And we definitely got a lower on the CCI as hinging down, just waiting to see if we get the same signal on the stochastics. So we move on to the S&P 500. Got it. Looks like we got a gap down, closed on the low. Looks like it's trying to fill the gap here. Got a hook on the CCI, commodity channel index, and it's starting to hook on the stochastics. We got a higher volume on the sells, so it looks like more people want to sell. So we got a target of 514.48. I think it could potentially do like the diamonds and zigzag eventually down to 498.67. And the VIX, we got like a spinning top here. And then we got a engulfing inverted hammer. Looks like it wants to move up. And what happens when the VIX moves up? Well, the S&P 500 moves down. So we'll see if that continues. We got to move up in the commodity channels index. Looks like we got a slight move. Need a little more detail on the stochastics. So let's move on here. So people don't feel like buying homes. This is on Game of Trades. Home buying conditions have hit depressed levels never seen since 1960. Look at this. But on the other side of the coin, people don't want to sell their homes. You know, where are they going to move to? Interest rates are high. People are just not selling. So we got a quandary here. Where do things go? That's why it's difficult for people who want to buy a home. Homes are expensive and the payments are pretty high. So that is kind of stagnating this part of the economy. So a lot of people are excited when they hear the Fed is going to pivot. But let's look at what has happened when the Fed has pivoted. So they pivoted in the great financial crisis, but stocks cratered 50.1%. When did they pivot? They pivoted August 2007, and then the S&P 500 didn't stop dropping until February of 2009. Took 18 months. The dot-com bubble, they pivoted, and the market went down 38.3%. It pivoted December of 2000, and the S&P didn't hit bottom till September of 2002. Not quite 2 years, but close to 2 years, 21 months later. So here is the rest of this you can take a look at. So Jimmy Carter, deregulator extraordinaire. Will history repeat? What are we thinking that it'll repeat? Stagflation. If inflation keeps raising its ugly head, what comes with economic stagflation and unemployment was a problem. So that is the concern. And then this is something that is really starting to heat up. LA battles a spate of burglary tourists as marauding gangs from Chile, Ecuador, Colombia, and Peru jet in on a 90-day mass visa and ransack millionaire mansions and then flee back to South America. Squatting is becoming worry in the news. So in addition to cars being stolen, broken into, now we have to worry about burglary tourists or international squatters. So that's kind of the look of this week's PowerPoint. Go take a look at what went on in the market. Before we do that, well, let's continue. We're gonna look at a couple of crypto charts in a moment. Take a look at the dollar first. Dollar gaps up and raises up 0.53%. So it really hit here bottom right around the 50-day moving average, and it has been moving up ever since. How did that affect silver? Silver continues pulling back. Gold didn't really affect them too much over here. Now it is starting to pull back. Canadian copper miner still staying within the range, but it is starting to pull back. Southern copper, wow, actually went up, and look at, we got an ant here. Institutional ants starting to acquire. Look at this volume. FCX, big pullback. Vale, Brazil mining company, pulling back as well. Australian miner, BHP group, gap down. Pretty good volume. Finally, Rio. Gap down and closed on the low near its declining 10-day moving average. So let me see if I can pull up. I go to the right screen. Pull up Bitcoin first. Chart is taking a while to come up, but hopefully by the time here we go. Bitcoin has been on a surge today. It started earlier today on 64,000. This move, it pulled back a little bit, went up to 67,000, almost 500. Yeah, 64,000, 67,500 something, pulling back a little bit. But we'll see where it ends up tomorrow. Take a look at Ethereum. Been doing similarly. So it hit a low over here. This is 3302. And it hit a peak here of 3459. Pulling back a little bit, but it has come a long ways as well. So that's the story with the two cryptocurrencies. Stop the share and go back to our charts. Stop video. And let's pull these up here. What was up 3% with 50% increase in volume. Stream finders, a little bit of a pullback to the 50-day, and look at this bounce. Both came on above average volume. We did miss our bond yields. Just met this high, and now they pulled back to their It's at the 200-day moving average. EBT pulled back to their 50-day moving average. So that's going to help our small caps, possibly. Small caps did sell off pretty strong. We just looked at our projections, but just wanted a quick run of that. And then our jet maker in Brazil just keeps on flying. Breaks out over here. 2023 was a breakout, pivot, pulls back a little bit, and then takes off once again. And look at all this blue volume. So that is that. What was up 5%, 100% increase in volume. Dianthus Therapeutics broke out at 1505 and has never looked back. Just follows that 10-day moving average all the way. Pulled back here a little bit, and that may have been your chance. And now it just gapped up on Friday, up over 14%. We looked at Prayer, FedEx, we saw in the news. Lifeway Foods. Look at that gap up here. Big volume down here. Earnings came in at 420%. That would get your attention. Yes. Up 11%, almost 12%. Murano Global Investments. We're not going to go through all of these, but a REIT that designs structures and delivers large-scale hospitality commercial projects across Mexico. Myers Industries got a gap up. Earnings are due, up nearly 6%, 105% increase in volume. Look at all those blue bars. Yeah, we did have a couple of high bars here, but you really didn't decline that much. PosiTrack, software and services allowing retailers to manage and analyze supply chain. Got a shoots up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row. Actually, count these to be 9 days in a row. Look at all that volume. Earnings up 17%. Pulls it back, a little profit taking. And then boom. Takes off again, up 12.23%. Sezzle, digital payment platform, enables merchants to offer flexible alternative to alternative credit. Up 14.27%. Look at all these blue volume over here. And then we have sound thinking. Security devices that detects gunfire, alert authorities, and analyze the area. Up 5%, but it's pretty hard to tell that on this chart. Been declining for a long time. What else? We got Stevonto, we saw in the news. Worthington Steel, looked at on Thursday. In Summit Midstream Partners. Huge gap up. Look at that. EPS due 0 days. It must have been on earnings. So up 39%. Amazing. So we move over to what's up 10% on 200% increase in volume. Worthington Steel. up 482% on their earnings. There was some selling here, but it really didn't move a whole lot on these sales. And then we got some buying coming in. Maybe somebody knew something, and boom, it gaps up. Earnings 482%. Now take a look at a PO, IPOs. This is a Mexican store. Their earnings are really growing. You take a look at the weekly. Look at this earnings line. This is showing the earnings just kind of shooting up at a right angle. Recently reported up 142%. Shrink this down here a little bit. What is the change? 141%, 72%, 51%, 61%, and 59%. That is on our sales. Got the blue dot, relative strength blue dot, hitting a newer high against the S&P 500. So that is at IPO. This is one we looked at a few weeks ago. Bought this, and then on this down turn, I believe right around here, we sold around 28, and then it has just continued further down. So that is an IPO that couldn't break out and it failed. So we'll just keep it on our radar. So what else do we have here? Let's take a look at Square. Square is kind of in this range. Did break out. And it's just kind of bouncing up and down. Right now it's staying above this gap up, which is good. Getting pretty close here. But we'll continue watching that. The volume kind of muted as it's coming down here, which this is what you would see. See lower volume on the selling when it pulls back. Duolingo. Duolingo. It sold off. We sold it, and then right over in this area, kind of bought it back. Kind of holding above in this area. Broke out, pulled back. Look at the angle of the earnings. It's just ascending up. Did have high volumes selling on this week. Something to keep our eyes on. Something that we had sold. Let's take a look at. As soon as we sell it, then it kind of takes off again. Sold it around 124 on this day. Then it bounces following day and continues up. So we'll continue to watch that. Also sold super microcomputer. Right around here, pull back even further, and now it's bounce. So we'll just keep our eyes on that one. Let's take a look at where our FANG stocks are. Meta, which we own, continues to kind of be above the 500 level here. Not too much volume going on here. Amazon, looked at it in the news, bounced a little bit, pretty low volume, not much happening there. Netflix, staying definitely above 600. We put on a short to get a little dividend at 650. Even if it gets up there, it sells, it'd be a great place to take a profit. So we try to do. Apple, we saw from the heat map, is having some trouble. Did bounce a little bit, 0.53%. I'm wondering, maybe that was an older heat map. Let me just share that with everyone. Yeah, this is more accurate. Yeah, there was definitely some selling. Selling in financials, asset management, just couldn't hold up at the end of the day. So the selling definitely came in. That may be in a distribution day. Let's go back to our screen. Google moving up. We had a gap up in Google here, holding, as long as it holds this gap, remains positive. So we'll see if it can continue and get to the breakout zone. Microsoft had a pullback, but it's remaining pretty tight right here, only down 0.15%. Nvidia kind of remaining in this area here. Remaining in that, looks like it just broke out of that box. Broke out here, but it closed down for the day. Yeah, that up 3%. That looks pretty good. Tesla continues kind of struggling. And I think that's that. So when you buy a company, you want to keep your losses low. Want to keep your losses 3-5% if possible. And your profits, if you take them at 20 to 25%, you're going to have a winning business. So just want to keep reiterating that. Take a look at Weatherford. Take a look at some of these oil issues. Weatherford just keeps continuing up. It's trading within this range. We did short some call options at 125 to get a little more income coming in. Volume has been pretty muted. Take a look what oil pricing did. A little bit more of a pullback, down 0.18%. Still kind of hanging on to, as long as it remains above 30, this triple oil ETF. Take a look at some of the tankers. Frontline pulls back. Scorpio tankers remaining pretty tight area. See if that can break out. PK. Tried to move up here and then it's pulled back. Here is 10-day moving average. ERA. MD still remains in this box area. I just wait for it to prove itself. Gonna bounce up here. We've looked at the yield before. Yield is 17.2%. Mobile. Look at this. Once it crossed the 200-day line, it would have been place to buy, and then it's just been moving on up ever since then. Some of the other issues that we're currently trading. App. We bought this at 45 strike price, and then just kind of held it even though it pulled back here. And then look at this big bounce, this gap up. It's never, it said viable gap ups are right about here. We had bought 8 options, bounce, and just continues right on up, just like that movement. Earnings expected to go up 367%. Earnings came in at 333%. Cellulose or drink, we bought at 57. Half of it we rolled to 62 and then rolled to 67. That's where we converted, some at 57 and some at 67. And we just are continue to hold that. Looks like we got a little consolidation and pulled back, got close to the 20-day moving average, and then it bounced. Could have added here if we had any more capital to add. Elf Beauty came up here, pulled back to the 10-day, came back again, pulled back to the 20-day, violated, came back, pulled back for 1 day below the 20-day, just kind of held. Here's a day you could have added. Bouncing off the 20-day, and to see where it rides out here. Take a look at Lyft. So right before earnings, we had, I believe, yeah, but we had like 6. No, we had 10 options. We closed out 6 of them. We kept the other 4. Earnings came out. No, I'm sorry, I was looking in the wrong area. Right over here. Huge gap up. Gap up here. So we sold 2 of the options, get a little more cash so we could use those options to roll over. So we have, I believe it's 600 shares right now. Just double check this here. We have 600 shares lift. So Lyft really did lift off. Pull back here. But what did we learn? We learned if the stock really jumps up 20%, you're supposed to keep it for a minimum of 8 weeks. and then reevaluate at that time, because most stocks that go off 20% within 3-week time period are the biggest winners that you'll find. So that's the story there. Continue holding that. This is in our smaller Roth IRA account. Denison Mines. We originally bought it at, well, originally we bought it at 85 cents. And then we had sold it and bought it and sold it, bought it a few times. But we bought it right here on the breakout. Came up here, pulled back. And when it came up 215 here, pulled back to 2. That's where we sold it. We bought it back at 194 right here. Then it pulled back some more, and then it bounced. So it has a 12-month target of 350. So we'll just continue to watch that on our list here. Going back to our regular account, just looked at Square, kind of look at CrowdStrike. Just kind of range bound. 338.55 would be the breakout. It's just trading in this box. Had one day it went up to 365 on its earnings, but then it sold off and just been range bound ever since. As you can see, it's wide and loose over here. The good thing is here, it's starting to tighten up. We like that. And we'll just continue to watch that. We got options on those at 330. And we had sold the 320 put and did a put spread, did a bullish put spread, sold the 320 and bought the 310. And so that's what we're doing with Crowd. RTX. We bought the options on this. Let me see. We did the 94.99 spread on this one. Right on this day, pulled back a couple of days, and now it's bounced. Earnings aren't for another 30 days. So that's in the money. We're just going to continue to hold that. That doesn't come due till April. Continue to hold Smith Douglas Homes and the real estate. Shockwave, we sold part of this. See where that spread, it's a 210, 270, 280 spread. So at 270, 280 on this downdraft right here. Tried to get out of it, and there was just seems like there's not a lot of volume in the options on this. So that is a risk that we wish we would have known before, but it's a story. GLSI. Bought this right in like 1550. Continues to do well. Starting to look like a high tide flag. It's gone from 10 to 20 now. Well, I guess we draw the flagpole right. Pretty crooked flagpole. Let's just clear the screen. It's a better looking flagpole. There we go. There's our flag. What doubles often will double again, sometimes triple. So we'll just see. There's a 12-month target of 38 on this stock. Finally, let's take a look at Java Mediterranean Grill. We bought several times over here. We had sold right about here, pull back, and then we decided to bounce a little. So we bought 15 call options on this, and then we exercised them over here when it was right close to 60. It was 58 or 59. And we've just been kind of riding that ever since. At some point, we may sell some call options to get a little more income on this. We'll just have to keep evaluating, find out what price we want to do that at. And that is our show for the weekend. If you have any questions on education, anything at all, if you want to know how to open an account, we're going to look at some brokerage firms in the future, look at Think or Swim, how these things work. And in the meantime, hope you and your family have a great weekend. And we look forward to catching up with you next time. And we'll see you tomorrow on Monday. In the meantime, have a great Sunday. Mornings with Michael has been brought to you for information and educational purposes only. It is your responsibility to do your own due diligence.